Too much news. Speaker Mike Johnson absolutely backslaps, backhands AOC rhetorically. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. Part one of the double wide. These episodes are going to be huge because there's too much news to cover. We're going to do way more on Jack Smith, the spying campaign. I've got corruption with Biden and Ukraine in this episode. The revelations are absolutely amazing. We'll start right here with Speaker Mike Johnson giving it to AOC.
You can pull it, go to speaker.gov. I made it easy. It's right there for you. You can see the bill they filed would 100% restore health care paid for by taxpayer dollars to illegal aliens. The calculation is about $200 billion. She hasn't read the legislation, and I'm not sure she would understand it even if she did.
AOC hasn't read the legislation on the .gov website, and Mike Johnson takes a mighty shot at her going, I don't think she'd understand it. If she did read it, Mike Johnson, that's a passive-aggressive way of saying she's dumb. Good one, Mike. He's just kind of waking up to knowing how to fight like Trump. I think Trump's had a very good effect on Mike Johnson. And they're sticking to, remember, the big picture. You have to get the government funded. We have to get the continued resolution going. We have to beat the Democrats with it because they're still trying to win this war out in public, saying the Republicans, are trying to destroy the government. Really, the Democrats are the ones that have cut off everyone's aid. They are not funding the government, and they're not going to get away with it either. That's the good news. Wait, now here's the Biden corruption. This is brand new. I haven't heard anyone else report on this. This is brand new. Even top-level Ukrainian officials thought then Vice President Biden and his family were engaged in corrupt practices in their country, as documented in a just declassified CIA report in early 2016. Because we're spying on the Russians, we're spying on the Ukrainians. We get access to all their mail through the CIA. And the CIA says the Ukrainians thought that the Biden family was corrupt. So what did Biden do about this evidence? Because Biden knew that the CIA had access to this evidence. He and his national security team covered it up. As shown here in documents, the CIA director, Ratcliffe, who's our guy, great guy. Again, John Ratcliffe was hit by fake MAGA channels. They said he was a rhino, and they're wrong. Just declassified and released about the Biden trip to Ukraine. Heavy redactions are a sign that the U.S. intelligence sources were used in attaining the info. DNI Clapper, that's Clapper, who's also had a pardon and we have to go after. I don't know if he has had a pardon or not, but he's one of the guys that went after Trump. Email at the time, Biden prefers, quote, report not to be disseminated, Clapper said as part of the cover-up. Quote, these officials viewed the alleged ties of the U.S. vice president's family to corruption in Ukraine as evidence of a double standard within the United States government towards matters of corruption and political power. Here's John Ratcliffe's original post. This was just posted this morning, guys. This is brand new hot news. Today, I declassified CIA intelligence regarding Ukraine after determining it is in the public interest. Read the report here. There's CIA government. This is CIA.gov, and here's all the documents online. You can see it all heavily redacted. This is spy stuff, but that's what's revealed. More documents are coming. We're going to nail Biden and his son for their corruption. It's coming. We're going to do a quick check-in on, this is John Kennedy. First time I've seen this, where he asked Grassley, why not sue? Why not have the 8 Republicans sue the living daylights out of the FBI for spying on citizens?
If the 8 senators who were spied upon sue the hell out of the Department of Justice and the perpetrators involved, will that facilitate their investigation?
Yeah, we'll be able to privately open it up and sue the living daylights out of the FBI and force them to subpoena these people for breaching the constitutional rights of Marsha Blackburn, Lindsey Graham,
and or yours. I guess what I'm getting to is I don't understand why we don't have a separate hearing. I find this breathtaking.
Yeah, it's just been 24 hours since the FBI investigated on it. Please give me an opportunity to sort through all this.
Fair enough. I just don't want to wait 24 years to get an answer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Chuck Grassley, it's just been 24 hours. Kennedy, I just don't want to wait 24 years. Look at, so there's Chuck Grassley sitting right next to Dick Durbin. They all have their lawyers coming out. Behind him, Amy Klobuchar with her little lawyers coming and bringing them little memos. The Democrats are running and screaming right now in a panic, not knowing what to do about this. This is the biggest scandal. So far, this is the biggest scandal. It directly impugns the character of Jack Smith and Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray, all the things they denied, and it puts the brand in our mouths of the weaponization of government. Now, I'm just going to do a real quick J.D. Vance here. J.D. Vance, remembering this is October 7th, that is the slaughter of the Israel innocent people by Hamas on this second anniversary of the terrible terrorist, Muslim terrorist attacks on October 7th. We remember all of the innocent people brutally murdered by Hamas. The people that were murdered were Jews. That's why Hamas murdered them. Hamas are Islamic. That's why one of the reasons they're Islamic radicals. That's one of the reasons why they murdered them. And we continue to work towards President Trump's plan to bring the remaining hostages home, release all the hostages, and build a lasting peace for all. Thank you, J.D. Vance, for that memory. Wait, here's more. Here's John Fetterman, the only Democrat who's not an anti-Semite. Remembering them on 2-year anniversary, 10/7, I remain deeply proud to stand with Israel. You should be deeply ashamed standing with the Democrat Party. Your party is trying to defund Israel.
It's the second anniversary of that tragedy of 10/7. Now, thankfully, now we have the possibility to end this terrible war and bring back the remaining hostages. My vote and voice is going to continue to follow Israel. I'm so truly sorry for what your nation's been through. I'm proud to stand with you, and I'll continue to do so.
You're in the wrong party. But you know what? Shout out to John Fetterman. Why? Because he's the only Democrat who stands with Israel, outspokenly, flat out waved the Israel flag in front of the Palestinian and Hamas and pro-Islamic supporters that came and jeered at him. He unapologetically stood, and that's a tough thing to do. That actually takes political balls because he can start getting defunded and all that. Speaking of political balls, here is Charlie Kirk praying with a picture of him praying with Ben Carson, two great men. The Southern Poverty Law Center put both of these men on their hate watch list, claiming they're both on they're hate mongers. Think about that. Charlie Kirk and Ben Carson, two of the least hateful people ever, put on the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is hidden behind being anti-racist, and really they're the most hateful Democrat institution because they've been taken over by liberals. Here is President, this is weird. This is about Charlie's memorial. This is President Putin. Even he acknowledges Charlie Kirk's memorial in a way the Democrat Party will not.
Вы знаете, это отвратительное злодеяние, тем более в прямом эфире, по сути дела. Мы все это видели, но это, не знаю, это действительно отвратительно выглядит, ужасно. Я прежде всего, конечно, приношу свои соболезнования семье господина Кирка и всем его близким.
He offers condolences to Charlie Kirk and his loved ones, and the Democrat Party won't do it because the Democrat Party is more evil. They have less of a heart than Vladimir Putin, one of the world's worst dictators, and Vladimir Putin has a bigger heart than 99% of the Democrat Party. Here's Trump with some theology. This one made me laugh. Anytime Trump talks theology, I don't want to laugh at the man. I believe in I believe in looking at his intent far more than his actual words, but I think this is really sweet. Watch this.
And we're dealing, as you know, with all of the different, and not just evangelicals, Christians. We're dealing with lots of different faiths, religions. And I felt for a long time that, if a country doesn't have religion, doesn't have faith, doesn't have God, it's going to be very hard to be a good country. There's no reason to be good.
That part of the conversation, I totally agree with. Be good if you don't have a religious country, not just religious, specifically Christian. But I get what he's saying. I think this is very touching for a world leader like Trump to be that vocal about God sitting in the Oval Office. These are incredibly good times for Christians. Although I think his theology coming up here is horrific, I still kind of get what he means. So listen to this.
I want to be good because you want to prove to God that you
Hold on. I got to get back on this quote.
Reason to be good. I want to be good because you want to prove to God that you're good, so you go to that next step, right?
Prove to God that you're good so that you get to that next step. Now, that has never been Christian theology, that you prove to God that you're good. If anything, you confess that you're a fallen sinner and bad. Okay. I cannot prove to God that I'm good. Remember, God is the source of all good. But bless Trump, he is not quite up to the last 2,000 years of theology. I think he comes at faith as a baby Christian. I also think his sentiment of I have to be good for God. By the way we become good for God is to have Jesus pay for our sins. That's the only way to be good enough for God. Get it? So now I'm good before God. Not because of what I did, but because of what Jesus did. Trump doesn't fully understand that. He's a baby, Christian, a baby theologian. However, he does represent a huge majority of Americans that are also baby Christians and pretty theologically ignorant. I think he represents our country well, and the world. I think he represents them. I think this is basically how people believe that they have to be good enough for God, like they have to impress God with how good they live. That, of course, is not mainstream Christian theology, but I think he is just another, very much a populist Christian. That's what populist Christians believe. And I give him, I think the sentiment is well placed. Versus, I have texts that my friend sent me of Obama doing these incredibly erudite, correct theology on Jesus, on this Easter prayer service and all this. But Barack Obama didn't believe a word of it. Even Bill Maher said, Barack Obama, look, he said he was against gay marriage, but he totally believes in gay marriage. He's lying. He said, Barack Obama says he believes in God, but he's an atheist. Said Bill Maher, Barack Obama is lying. So Barack Obama can say whatever. He's lying. Trump may be wrong about Christianity, but he is telling you the truth of what he actually believes, and I actually admire that. Here's Julie Kelly with more. Least surprising thing ever. This is on the Chuck Grassley release. The Biden administration through Jack Smith was spying. Least surprising thing ever, as the only reporter, Julie Kelly, guys, was the only reporter out there that broke these stories. And I reported on Julie Kelly, so I got all my information from her for the last couple of years. Least surprising thing ever, as the only reporter on the right who covered both cases almost on a daily basis, true, and posted about the proceedings, trying to get some attention to Jack Smith's lawlessness and depravity. This is no bombshell. So this isn't a bombshell to Julie Kelly. We're all doing shows on it. She's been soberly tracking this thing and doing this for years. That's why two of my biggest sources in all this Washington stuff are Julie Kelly and Mike Davis. What's infuriating is the same time Smith and his team of thugs had free reign at the DC courthouse to try to imprison the president and potentially do the same to members of Congress if Trump lost the election. This is what I mean by we dodged a bullet in 2024. If Trump lost the election, they would have gone after this hit list of Marsha Blackburn, Josh Hawley, and Trump to do the same members of Congress if Trump lost the election. The GOP lawmakers were doing nothing to defund him and shut him down. So this is about a failure of the right. I hope we can wake some people up. I'm looking to see limp-wristed Lindsey Graham learn to make a fist and finally say, you spied on me? Lindsey Graham, what will you do? You spineless, limp-wristed coward. Now that you know that you were spied on by the government you've obfuscated for, will you not finally grow some fangs and go fight? That's my question. On all these guys, here's Catherine Herridge. Who are the FBI supervisory special agents, SSA names redacted, who approved this report, surveillance of GOP U.S. senators like Marsha Blackburn and Josh Hawley? Marking indicates FBI, WFO, Washington field office at the FBI during the Biden administration. Context: an FBI SSA manages investigations teams and approves reports. Note: toll analysis is used to analyze cellular data. Details for federal probes. This is a highly revealing investigation tool that exploits patterns of communication. So they were trying to get the pattern of communication from Marsha Blackburn, Josh Hawley, Lindsey Graham, Tuberville, Ron Johnson, location data, and a potential target's network of associates. That's one that I'm emphasizing. Who else did they find in the network of this? Is CC'd by Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Chuck Grassley, and Senator Ron Johnson. Dan Bongino, we promised you transparency and accountability. We will continue to deliver on those promises. You deserve better. He's retweeting Kash Patel. Transparency is important and accountability is crucial. Critical. We promised both, and this is what promise looks like now. Bongino and Kash Patel have fulfilled their promise of the transparency. More is coming. This is just the start. I want to show you what the Democrats and fake MAGA do in their feed. Okay, I am not distracted. Where are the Epstein files? See this? They want to get, where's the COVID and the Epstein pedophile arrest? No arrest. Their whole feed is full of it. That's what the Democrats are trying to distract you on. They want to take the hard work off of these investigations to dry up your FBI and go play Scooby-Doo on the Epstein files, which we were first to warn you and tell you the truth that that was a huge Democrat distraction. I lost 400 subs by telling you the truth. Just like John Fetterman, sometimes your own side gives it to you hard. That's why I say you guys have to rebel from those Democrats and hopefully subscribe. Part 2 of the Double Wide coming right up. I'm Doug in Exile. We got Jack Smith by the cojones. Trump calls him out. This is going to blow up and be extremely public. This is the new news cycle. I've got a lot more than just that corruption to expose the Democrats on. They are wholly, completely corrupt. We're finally getting evidence. This is the first time we've had actual proof, actual evidence in public, verified. That means there's a chance something can happen. There's a chance an arrest can happen. And there was no chance before Pam Bondi, before Kash Patel, before Trump, before the Trump administration. If Kamala Harris won, we would all be arrested. Welcome to the second half of the Double Wide episode. This thing is huge. Too much news to cover. I'll start here. This is Trump's tweet that he just posted. Deranged Jack Smith got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, a real sleaze bag. Here's a Trump phone call on Greg Kelly show.
Jack Smith, we just found out that he had some of your key allies under surveillance, wiretapping, finding their phone records, everybody from Tommy Tuberville, Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, senator from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Did you hear about this? I did not know. Nobody had any idea.
A little while ago, I did. He was a sleazebag, Jack Smith. He was a bad guy, terrible guy, always went too far. He was a violent, horrible prosecutor, and he's paying the price. I tell you what, people. What he did to the lives of so many people, and he tried on me. This guy was a bad guy, and the reason he lost is because he went too far. When you go too far, sometimes you get away with it, but they didn't get away with it here. Jack Smith was a sick person.
Yeah, sick. This is the theory of the Democrats always overplay a weak hand. They get a little tiny advantage with an election and they just go completely nuts. And that's Trump's theory on what the Democrats do every time. Here's Marsha Blackburn. We're going to let her weigh in on her own. She was one of the ones who had her phones spied on.
What we know is this, that the FBI under Joe Biden and under Barack Obama, that they exercised activity that they had no authority to exercise.
That's the first person to bring up Barack Obama. So it's one thing under the Biden administration. Now they're bringing up Barack Obama, the chosen one, the clean one. Remember, he's so clean and articulate, Biden said of Obama. And really, Obama was just another Democrat, leftist, totalitarian spying on his political enemies.
And as Senator Hagerty mentioned, we know what they did in 2016 to the Trump transition team. And now we find out that after the Mar-a-Lago raid, after the indictment of President Trump, they surveil us, people who support President Trump, members who are all Republicans. But it shows you how out of control and rotten to the core and politicized the FBI had become and how they had absolutely no problem at all whatsoever with political weaponization. We appreciate the information we've gotten today. We look forward to further investigation.
Yeah, keep investigating. That is the brand, guys. Political corruption, the formal weaponization of government, and no one in the Democrat Party said anything. No one on their side that claimed to be against politicization and weaponization of government, none of them said everything. As she said, this started in 2016 and goes all the way up to 2023. That's 7 years. Over 7 years, the Democrats watched politicization and did nothing. Now, this is my favorite quote. This is Senator Schmidt is going to go through an overview of all of the weaponization of government. There's a longer clip, 5 minutes. Let's get started on this one here. I'll zip ahead.
Given what we know now. And I thought what I might do is just tell a story. And these are 100% facts. Hillary Clinton, concerned about her email scandal, works with a Soros organization to cook up this Russiagate nonsense. They feed it to the intelligence agencies. And they spy, under Barack Obama's presidency, they spy on the political opponent, the Republican, running
Second mention of Barack Obama
against Hillary Clinton. He gets elected. They continue the operation. And they launder this intelligence into stuff that was meant to, by the FBI and the CIA, to sideline a presidency of a duly elected president of the United States of America, to sideline him. And that continued. You heard even some people on this committee further that nonsense for 4 years. And then the FBI is involved with pre-bunking the Hunter Biden laptop story because they didn't want him to get elected again. So they pre-bunked the Hunter Biden laptop story. The American people should have been allowed to make their own judgments from that. They weren't, because the FBI called it a Russian hack and leak operation. They were meeting with social media companies every month and every week.
Meeting with social media companies, that was Twitter and Facebook, putting pressure on them to censor American, you and I, free flow of information. This is where Elon Musk helped save the world by buying X for $42 billion.
That the laptop that they knew, that they had verified in November of 2019, they knew was real and knew was his, said it was Russian disinformation. We've heard that before. And then after Joe Biden comes in, 3 days in, they start a censorship campaign against the country, anybody who's a conservative. And now we also know that the FBI was weaponized in this Arctic frost investigation.
Yes, and we lost our channel. We were one of the ones that were censored. The way that you fight back, by the way, guys, number one way is by subscribing to this channel. Don't forget there's memberships open too now, right next to the join button. I'd love to have you on. It's how you uncancel me, make up for lost times, and support Chapter, which will be the ad read in the final episode today.
That tap the phones of sitting U.S. senators, and also the Republican Attorneys General Association. So let's pull in 2 more U.S. senators, Ashley Moody and myself, who were on the executive committee at that time. Charlie Kirk, political organization they didn't agree with. This is not in the Soviet Union in the 1980s. This is in the United States of America in the last few years.
I will argue it's longer than the last few years. I would argue it goes at least back to 2008 under Barack Obama, perhaps even 2001 with the election of Bush, when they were trying to fight those votes to get Al Gore elected. This is long-term corruption. This is what I mean by there's no justice in America today. This has gone on too long. If you're only just now waking up after MAGA started pushing back, that horse is way out of the barn, way out of the gate and running down the street. We are corrupt. You have to make arrests and change things to keep it from being corrupt. It's not decorrupted yet.
And then when they thought President Trump was on the run and there's no way people would elect him, and then he announces he's running for president, 3 days later, Jack Smith's appointed.
Bing.
To get Trump. Fannie Willis brings charges against President Trump, and the assistant prosecutor meets with the White House counsel's office. Why would that happen?
Nathan Wade.
Then you have Alvin Bragg bring his charges. The number 3 person at DOJ goes to work for him to get Trump, all in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
This continued. And Senator Hawley asked the question, wrote it down, what is happening in this country? And I hope that MSNBC is still broadcasting this, because I'm sure their viewership hasn't heard this story that's gone on for 10 years. The truth is, they never forgave President Trump for coming down the escalator at all. They didn't like him. They didn't like the disruption. And they've spent the better part of a decade not just going after him, but demonizing half the country as fascists and Nazis and threats to democracy. And they have fueled this division in their inability to accept the fact that half of the country isn't deplorables, as Hillary Clinton called her, bitter clingers, as Barack Obama called them, or trash, as Joe Biden called them. That they rose up and they sat in their own jury box and they saw all this stuff play out over a decade and they rejected it. And now you have come in to clean that up. And you are doing a great job in doing that.
Pam Bondi, you're doing a great job. Who would ever lie about that woman? Who would ever lie and say she should be fired and isn't doing a great job? Certainly not this channel.
And let me make this clear. There is a big difference between what happened under the Biden regime and the weaponization and then holding those people accountable. That is not weaponization.
That's right.
If that doesn't happen, this will happen all over again. So your job, as you talked about in your confirmation hearing, is so important that this never happens again. And holding people accountable who are part of this conspiracy is absolutely your job. And I'm also taking, you don't have to comment on this, your unwillingness to answer questions that have come up. I am led to believe, as a former attorney general, that might mean there's an ongoing investigation. You don't have to talk about it. The statute of limitations may have run on some of this stuff, but not on a conspiracy.
Conspiracy charges are coming. That's Eric Schmidt giving you a small clue. He goes, I don't know why you wouldn't comment on an ongoing investigation unless it's getting bigger. It is getting bigger. Get ready for conspiracy charges. Get ready for insurrection. Get ready for it. Bigger. This is just the start, guys. You ain't seen nothing. This is going to flower and bloom. The Democrats are going to get eviscerated, and we're going to clean out the government. Here's Josh Hawley.
Over and over from my Democrat colleagues concerns about targeting political enemies, and they've accused you of all manner of things and the current president. I've also heard them said, and I just wrote it down because I wanted to be sure I heard it correctly. I've heard them say that Joe Biden never targeted his political enemies. Joe Biden never directed his attorney general to target his political opponents. That's interesting, because I could have sworn that yesterday we learned that the FBI tapped my phone. Let's look at it. We've got a list. Tapped my phone, tapped Lindsey Graham's phone, tapped Marsha Blackburn's phone, tapped 5 other phones of United States senators.
That is, Biden directed the DOJ against his political opponents. This puts all of the narrative. What he's doing here is correcting the mainstream media's narrative, which ran with this. Biden never. Biden ran a clean. Remember, Barack Obama said there was no controversies in my administration because you had an FBI covering it all up, and yet a media complicit and covering up for you also. Wait, there's more. Now, here's leader John Thune being quoted by Hans Mankey, who we have quoted before. Here's leader John Thune. I have grave concerns about a new report showing that the Biden-era FBI spied on Republican senators, and I fully support Senate committees getting to the bottom of these outrageous abuse of power and weaponization of the government. So there's John Thune weighing in. Leadership. Again, guys, they have to talk about it before they can run with it. They have to put it out in the public and see if any of you care. So do post your comment below. Tell them that you care. John Thune, we care. When he Googles his own name every night, which he does, he Googles John Thune, and some of your comments below are going to come up in a Google search. YouTube's owned by Google. That's one of the ways that you talk to your leaders. You leave a comment below with very specific names, and they'll hear your message. That's a trick. Democrat operatives in the FBI just got caught running a massive surveillance operation against GOP senators, and now the GOP leader is calling for Senate committees to get to the bottom of it. And John Kennedy, in the last video, in the last section, said he wants them to sue the hell out of the FBI. It's a pitiful display of ineffectiveness. Meanwhile, so this is him going after the Republicans, Hans is, because when it's the Democrats' turn, they don't wait for abuses to happen. They fabricate them, skip the endless committees and hearings, and go straight to the early morning raids and jailing innocent people. The difference is how power is wielded is staggering. I only have to warn my side and to Hans, if you agree with that. We're not Democrats. We may need to start acting like them and send the FBI after them before there's enough evidence and just go bust them and throw them in prison. But the Democrat stuff does not stick because they go for the preferred ends of an arrest before, and there's no evidence. So it goes through appeals courts. It doesn't stick. or over time, they end up becoming the target of an investigation. That's what this is. This is a counter investigation to their investigation. My warning is I agree. I'm all for if that's the way they say government works, is that now you jail your political opponent, then put together real estate fraud against Trump, march up E. Jean Carroll after you open up the statute of limitations to bring new charges against her, go after Stormy Daniels for stuff that every other politician does and it's legal. If that's what we're going to do, I'm fine with it. Politicize it, but it's not going to stick. Go throw Barack Obama in prison and watch what happens. It wouldn't stick. I want stuff that sticks. I want my government fixed because my country's dead. Here's Jeff Clark of the U.S. Today is the 4-year anniversary of Senator Durbin sending a letter to the D.C. Office of Disciplinary Counsel seeking to have me disbarred. See, now we're going back on Durbin, though I never testified to Senator Durbin. Durbin had him disbarred without testimony. He was proceeding based on New York Times leaks. The letter touched off 4 years of litigation, and you don't want to know what expense and lost income to me, to my family, to the loss of friends, and randomness of those who fled from me, and of old and new friends coming to offer their support and prayers. That's what happened to me too. I was called a homophobe and a racist, canceled out of comic books and video games. You find out who your friends are, because some friends attack you and say, Doug, why do you have to have such a big mouth and open your mouth? Just be quiet. In the name of Jesus, just be quiet. I had Christians tell me that. And then your real friends come out and go, I can't believe they did this to you. And then all of you subscribed, and that is my great reward. That's all the revenge I need, even though I lost millions of dollars over their draconian efforts. The picture below, there are 13 binders. This is just capturing one of my 4 cases with DC Bar, and also does not include my district court and DC circuit removal cases from the J6 committee attacks on me, the attacks of other congressional committees. Here's the picture. These are the binders that Dick Durbin threw against him. And now it's our turn. Here's Julie Kelly, who's been faithful at reporting this stuff from the very beginning. She's my #1 source on this stuff. Assistant U.S. attorneys from across the country volunteered to leave their home office and transfer to Washington, D.C. to help prosecute Americans for their involvement in January 6th. She's been defending the 1,500 January 6ers. Numerous prosecutors signed off on the unlawful use of a corporate fraud statute to turn innocent Americans into lifelong felons. These are innocent Americans now, not just the Josh Hawley or politicians. These are normal people like you and me. The prosecutors sought seditious conspiracy indictments for otherwise nonviolent protesters simply because they belong to a certain group out of favor with Christopher Wray's FBI. Those are guys like the Proud Boys. When these same bloodthirsty prosecutors sought and received terror enhancement at sentencing. It is not that career prosecutors are suddenly skeptical of evidence produced by the government related to high-profile cases. With each act of insubordination, these prosecutors demonstrate what we've known for the last decade. The establishment Department of Justice is infested. Trump's Department of Justice was infested with partisans using their positions of power for political purposes. That's why the new Department of Justice under Pam Bondi must be defended and championed, guys. This rolling purge cannot happen fast enough. You must purge these people out of office. Here's Eagle Ed Martin. This is another guy that people have said was a rhino, and he's very effective. Biden White House targeted parents. Smoking gun from America First Legal. The AFL has obtained, American First Legal, new documents conclusively proving that AG Merrick Garland's infamous October 1st memo labeling concerned parents at a school board meeting as domestic terrorists was politically orchestrated and driven by the Biden White House. The White House has been in touch, quote unquote, is what's in the letter, guys. This is what I mean by these charges are going to massively expand and balloon. The Democrat Party is cooked and they're getting exposed, guys. My patriots, that's the good news. You have to start with the messaging. It has to get out. That's why I'm doing my job, putting my megaphone and electron microscope on these important issues. This is the only thing important today. It is not Epstein files. This is the only thing important. Here's Julie Kelly again. When anyone asks me who I most want prosecuted by the DOJ, I always answer Jack Smith. I answer Merrick Garland, by the way, Jack Smith's boss, but I'll take her lead on this without hesitation. She knows more than I do. She knows more about Jack Smith being an actual lizard than even I do. What he and his team of thugs did to the president, to everyone around him, and to the country cannot go unpunished. We demand punishment, not revenge, justice, or your country is gone. If Democrats ever get back in power, guys, we're all going to prison. It's over. That's why we never put an X next to a Democrat. It's been my brand for years. Unseen one, Senate is now voting to confirm 107 of the Trump nominees with one vote. Judges, we believe, are part of that block deal. So Trump is getting his people through as Democrats exhibit a moment of weakness. Wait, the love and good times don't end yet, people. Here's from the Black MAGA Pizza breaking. Black Lives Matter has just filed a lawsuit against the Soros-backed Tides Foundation, claiming it's withholding $33 million in promised funds. They promised funds, and now they're getting sued. That is Black Lives Matter suing our Soros Foundation, the Tides Foundation. This could get very messy. We very much approve of Democrats destroying other Democrats. Speaking of, here's Mike Davis on the Democrats on the judge ruling. This is a short clip. I'm going to give him the stage because I love Mike Davis as much as I love Julie Kelly.
They've already gone to the Ninth Circuit, the Trump DOJ, and is appealing that temporary restraining order on the guard deployment, Mike. Do you believe that will be successful at the Ninth Circuit?
I don't know if it will be successful at the Ninth Circuit because it's full of a lot of Democrat judges.
But there's some good judges on the Ninth Circuit as well.
Trump transformed the Ninth Circuit in his first term, so it's not
I'm hopeful, more hopeful than you, but
it's not as bad as it once was. But I would say this: I think the Supreme Court on the emergency docket will certainly stay this order because it is clearly in violation of Article 2 of the Constitution, along with federal statutes.
The Supreme Court on this emergency docket. So we're hoping this goes to the Supreme Court and they will stay it. Here's Marsha Blackburn over on Fox News.
Here's the names of the senators that had their phones or communications tapped by Special Counsel Jack Smith in the Arctic Fox investigation.
Okay, we're going to look at these pictures here. I wanted to put a picture to the faces. Lindsey Graham, we know. Marsha Blackburn, we know. Senator Ron Johnson, we know. There's Senator Hawley, we know. Senator Loomis, I did not know. Republican, Wyoming. And Senator Hagerty, Republican of Tennessee. That's a man in my state. Yes, we all voted for him because we never put an X next to a Democrat by default. Anyone on that ballot gets my vote. Anyone in Tennessee who's a Republican, any Democrat gets nothing. Here's Miranda Devine. Wait, it gets even better, guys. Imagine if Trump's FBI spied on Shifty Schiff, Ed Markey, Liz Warren, Richard Blumenthal, etc. Imagine if President Trump sent armed goons to raid Biden's Delaware mansion and Rehoboth Beach House. How the Dems and their media toadies would squeal, like squealed little pigs. Senator Bill Haggerty on that same initial conference here.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. And Chairman Grassley, thank you for your leadership in making this happen. This is an extraordinary revelation that just took place this afternoon. My colleagues and I found out, all of us Republicans, by the way, that we were placed under investigation by this FBI, under the Joe Biden FBI that was led, I presume, by Jack Smith and his predecessors.
Yeah, it's been 2 years and we're only just now finding out. As Chuck Grassley said, it's been 24 hours. How am I going to get around this? Wait, there's more. Here's Kash Patel saying the ADL lobbyists, the Anti-Defamation League lobbyists, called in a panic when they found out the FBI was cutting ties with them. Comey put the ties together. Kash Patel just healed the FBI.
It's all being caused. It's not individual acts of violence. It is organized anarchy and chaos. And thanks to the president's initiatives, and when I was there in the Oval Office when he signed it, we are getting after the fight with more resources and tools than we've ever had.
You know, I found it interesting that your latest on the Anti-Defamation League, political fronts masquerading as watchdogs.
Yeah. I mean, just go look at the glossary index of what they used to have as what they called the equivalent of terrorist organizations. Turning Point USA on the list. Just to name one example.
So you thought they were a useful tool for former director James Comey?
No, I didn't. Absolutely not. I don't know why he ever partnered with them, except to bandy his name about in the public and work with the lobbyists down on K Street. Let me tell you something about this. When word got out that I was about to kick the ADL out, do you know who called this building? The lobbyists for ADL, begging for a phone call.
Look at his socks, American flags on Kash Patel. The lobbyists for ADF called. And he says Comey, he has no idea why Comey even tied up with the Anti-Defamation League other than for social credit. That's every liberal in your church. They get to say, we're with the Southern Poverty Law Center. We're with the ADF. We're with the cultural good guys. When your church and your friends and the people you vote for try to copy culture and try to fit in with culture, they have lost their grip on the truth. They're trying to hang out with the cool kids. Wait, there's more. Republicans should have 250 House seats. They were stolen. The census must be done over. This is on the politicization of the census by Senator Jim Banks. The 2020 census was a fraud. The Biden administration used a shady privacy formula that scrambled the data and miscounted 14 states, benefiting Democrat House seats and constraining Republican House seats. It included illegal immigrants and handed Democrats extra seats. Americans deserve fair count, and I'm fighting to fix it. They're trying to redo the census, which is almost impossible to do, guys. It's so expensive and so unruly. Here's Mark Hemingway. So to recap, Democrat weaponized the TSA to harass Tulsi Gabbard and Republican congressmen. And we just learned the FBI was spying on 8 Republican senators, but something Trump is an authoritarian. Here's another lazy response. I hear this all the time. The people waiting for just one Democrat to be held accountable for literally anything. Sorry, crybabies. Sorry, guys. We only just heard about it 24 hours ago. Here's Attorney General Ken Paxton. I very rarely criticize my side and Ken Paxton, but I have to go after him on this one. You guys tell me if this makes sense to you. Can you spot it? Breaking. Ken Paxton says, I'm launching undercover operations to infiltrate and uproot leftist terror cells in Texas. Guys, what's wrong with this announcement? He says, leftist political terrorism is clear and present danger. There can be no compromise with those who want us dead. Ken Paxton, if you're going to launch undercover operations to infiltrate and uproot leftist terror cells in Texas, maybe don't tell everyone about it on Twitter. Just shh. I trust you. Go infiltrate. You don't want to give them a warning. That's not a very good, it's like being on surveillance and you're sitting in the car outside of someone's house and you're telling them, we're surveilling you. What do you guys think? Do you agree with a little bit of criticism of Ken Paxton? Bad strategy. I'm just here about strategy, guys. Thank you for watching. You've now completed a massive 8 million factoid. You're all caught up on the news now. I'm Doug in Exile.